Greetings. I'm Dr. Lenny Time, and I'm here to talk about a concept of measurement. Um, Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I I gotta think for a moment how I want to do this. I have it all written out in my notebook, and I realize that while I can show you the notes very, very easily, saying how this turns into something that you can go with is the order of what I'm trying to figure out how to do. So let's start with some simple definitions. Order. The order of a group is a term for a size scale. And as you ascend in order from a first level group to a second, from a first order group to a second order group to a third order group, you are bringing in more people. Group theory is measuring groups, and this is an after the fact measurement, not a target for trying to get to, although it could be used as a target in another sense. But what we're trying to do is form a method of natural evaluation so that when groups merge and unmerge, we can tell the level of conversation that we're talking about by a measure of order and level. So, first order is human scale. That means me and a few other people, like my buddies Bruce and Harris, will have a conversation. And if there's less than 5 people in the conversation, we are on the first order, human scale. Now, for the Fibonacci sequence, you start with the number 0, add the next number 1, and generate the future number 1. Then you take the previous number 1, add the current number 1, and you generate the new number 2. Take the current number 2, added to the previous number 1, that generates the number 3. Previous number 2 plus current number 3 make 5. And so 5 steps along the way, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, you are on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th level. So level has to do with counting how progressive the meeting is within the dimension of the order. And every new meeting is a first order meeting because you got to start somewhere. And the first order, first level is just you meeting by yourself. So that's what this meeting would be for me because I'm not bringing anyone in. Howdy, Teo. Good to see you. I'm trying to explain a concept here, so I'll continue onward. When you get to 3 plus 5, 8, that's the 6th step, the 6th level. 5 plus 8, 13 is the 7th level. 8 plus 13 is the 8th level. And by the 8th level, 13 people as a group, you're tripping all over each other and having a hard time handling it if you're doing a video. However, if you apply the same measurement to a chat room, 35 people in a chat room, or 34 people, which would be 13 plus 21, that's an 8th level. That's a pretty big group for first level. But yet, depending on how you do it, you can always count and see where you're at for your initial group. However, if you're trying to get something done, you can't do it in a big group like that. But the second order, first level, begins with 5 people. And once you reach the 5th the fifth person and have a group that knows each other and can function, your second order group is a functional group set forth to do something as opposed to just meet each other and talk out stuff. And that functional group can be anything, but in the way that the measurement works, at that upping of the order, the first level, first group is a group of 5. And when it grows to a group of 8, that would be mapped to the 2 ones in the Fibonacci original series, the first order series. And so what we're doing is we're making a projection that if we start at 5 as the first one, then 8 is the second one, 13 becomes the 2, 21 becomes a 3, and 34 becomes the 5. And at that point, 34, you're ready to start a third order group. And the third order group, greetings, the third order group backs off from the 5, 34, to a 21. So you start at 21 with the first one on the third order, the first level, and 34 becomes level 2 on the third order. 55 people would be level 3, 89 people level 5, and level 5 is another ripe for reset to go to fourth order. Now, as far as group theory is concerned, in levels and order, Doc right now is measuring a group called CHSI, a comprehensive superintelligence group just made up of people talking. And there's other people who are trying to find out how to have valid conversations with lots of people. And what, yes, not to be confused with our CHSI. The idea is that bringing people together so that everybody has a voice in a whole society takes us first learning to have a voice in a group of small members and then getting larger. And so, like, I love what Grizz is doing in his group in his clubhouse and how it's sort of hooked on to Pastor Paul's clubhouse, which is sort of hooked on to Jordan Peterson's clubhouse. And those hooks make for a pretty impressive large group. But groups these days tend to be top down rather than bottom up. And so the idea is that in group theory, if we can get small groups right and be representative of each other as we get into larger groups, then larger groups can be mergers of small groups that take place, have the discussions that are really important to have, and go back to those smaller groups and relay what happened in the discussions and have another conversation so that everybody in the group is included and can state their positives and negatives. Now, everybody doesn't have to be included in everything. But if you want to be included in something, you shouldn't be excluded no matter what your voice is. And the level of people's voices at this point is set to 1. Everybody is one voice. And I'm going to join a group that gives people a certain amount of time to talk and allows them to be part of a conversation that is iterative, so that the next conversation will be based on what happened in the previous conversation. And if we can work out the rules for conversation in a way that is natural and flows, then I think this Fibonacci accounting system of measuring order and level of a group just by counting the number of people and their prior participation within the group. So I'm currently doing a measurement with the CHSI group that has had 13 YouTube videos, and they're making a hive mind that circulates around. I'm not sure what it circulates around. Aha, I see a stressful emoji. Let me get back to where I was instead of the politics of the situation, just explain where we're at using my little chart of numbers here. At the first level, where my fingers are at the top, you just count the size of the group and you project it along the Fibonacci lines. So here's the Fibonacci line here and the count of the level within the first order. When you advance to second order, you start at 5, so that becomes the first number in the sequence. Then 8 is the second number, 13 becomes the 2 because there's 2 ones first. 21 is the 3, 34 is the 5, and it goes up 55, 89, 144. And those are levels within the second order, which we're going to be at for a while, developing functional groups. When it gets time for the third order, we're going to take the fifth, the number of graduating from the previous order, and this is going to be when groups get together to intermingle and have discussions on the same topic with different folks. And when that happens, we'll do it through representation of the groups and have rewards for individual people who participate based on previous accounting within the system. This is only one way of measuring, and there's many others that include following through on a doubling function or a logarithmic scale or just basic counting, although basic counting can be misleading at times. By the time you get to third level, where you're starting with a group of 21 people, getting to 34 is the second one, and then 55, 89, 144 are the 2, 3, 5. And by the time you assemble 144 people as a group that is a collection of functional groups that are working together on a bigger issue problem, then it becomes time to get up to the community level. And so you go to 144, you roll it back to 89, so that 89 is the first one, 144 is the second one, and then you get to 233, 377. And these numbers are Fibonacci numbers, but it depends on what you're measuring to how to count with the Fibonacci sequence. But that's a topic for another day. I just wanted to get the basics of how to do it and to assign the order and level to the size of the group. And I'll be available to answer questions to anyone who wants to talk about it. Thank you very much, Nathaniel, and thank you very much, Teo. And it's glad to have some observers to hear this. And thank you, Gavin, for asking the question that has me set down to showing how to do this. It also is my first attempt at doing something like a chalk talk, and I don't quite have a whiteboard or a background, a blackboard, but we'll figure out the technology to make these easier. And gradually, I'll do more and more group theory explanations so that other people can measure the same things I'm measuring, so that when it comes to groups coming together, we have an idea of the potency of the group. Now realize that this is entirely quantitative and it's only based on presence or absence of people in the group. And so, yeah, I think so. We'll figure it all out because the group that is the little corner of Grisworld is already a group in the game and could be measured. But since I'm in the group and part of what's going on in Grisworld, I didn't want to go back to measure it. In this new group that I'm with, the starting point was December. Going back 3 months and getting the measurement scale is not a tough thing to do. But if I could do that, that's a piece of the puzzle that can be demonstrated and will work in our favor later on because it can serve as a model to really measure what you're looking at so that the science of everything can be applied in a uniform field. But we shall get there. This is Dr. Lenny time. I'm going to sign off and thank you all for being here. Well, take care.